Hey, vinyl community. Good evening. How are y'all doing this Tuesday night? I got I'm the North Carolina vinyl picker. Thank you all for helping me get this channel off the ground. It's been a labor of love, and I'm really enjoying what I'm doing. Um, Went to the antique mall today, and I found a few things. Kick things off on today's show. First item I found today was Patrick O'Hearn. River's Gonna Rise. They sure are rising around here in North Carolina, let me tell you. Patrick O'Hearn was in the band Group 87. We talked about that yesterday. And also, he's made a lot of new age music. This is just one of his albums. He's had several, and they're all very good. So if you get a chance to listen to Patrick O'Hearn. Another album I found today, which is Patrick Mraz. I didn't have this one, and I haven't heard it yet. I want to give it a spin, most likely later on tonight or tomorrow. And Patrick is known for, he was in the Moody Blues, took over for Mike Pinder, and also he was on the album Relayer with Yes, which is a really jazzy Yes album compared to some of their others. Personal favorite of mine. I do love Tales though, and of course Fragile and Close to the Edge. But this is going to be a really good album. He made several solo albums. Patrick Mraz. Two Patricks. The third album I found today was a band called Stars. I heard a lot of people talking about this in the VC, and so I thought I'd give it a listen. And come to find out, they're from New Jersey, and that's where I'm from, New Jersey. I grew up there, about 20 miles from New York City. Haven't heard this yet. I think it's going to be like a garage band. They didn't make it big, but they made a few records, and they had some other big bands behind them promoting them. From what I read, it was Aerosmith and Kiss, I believe. They were helping them get them off the ground, so to speak. Record store releases. I've never been to a record store when they had RSD, Record Store Day, but I do pick them up when I see them because most of the time they're really cool, and it's something you don't see normally because there's only so many copies of them to begin with. And so here's a few of them. David Gilmour, 45, that came out this last Record Store Day, I believe, or the one before. Yes, We Have Ghosts. I love Pink Floyd. And I'll talk more about Pink Floyd here in a minute, how I got into them. Jethro Tull, North Sea Oil. Sorry about the glare. That's better. This is a 10-inch record. Another Jethro Tull, Moths. Another 10-inch record, Record Store Day. And this one I got at the record show last weekend in Charlotte. I believe in Father Christmas. Record Store Day release from a few years ago. The late Greg Lake. Everybody knows this song. And another Jethro Tull. Stormwatch 2. Outtakes, I believe, and stuff from the original album. Some of these been remastered by Steven Wilson, who's also one of my favorites. And we'll get into him one night with Porcupine Tree and the whole. And here you go with Jethro Tull again. Live. Record store release on the orange vinyl. Pretty cool. This sounds really good. And one more. How Big This Space? Steven Wilson, we were just talking about. And this is pretty cool because it comes in this blue vinyl. And most of these, like you guys know, that are and gals, it only released so many copies of these, so they're getting harder and harder to get. If you don't find them in the wild, then you got to pay through the nose to get them through eBay or VCLT from a friend. Next thing on my list here is going to a huge, large antique mall tomorrow, and that's in near North Carolina, and I heard it's the largest in the entire state. It's in Concord. So we're going over there tomorrow, and we're going to look around and see what we can find. And I'll get back to you that on tomorrow and let you know what I came up with. I'd like to give a couple shout outs here, like I do every night. And the first one is Rachel, the Music Man, the Vinyl Archivist, and Ron Baldry. Those three there were ones of the first three that I first started watching when I got involved with the vinyl community, and then also Noble Records. I went and visited Dylan and saw his store, bought some music there. If you're in the Charlotte area, it's a very good store. And Elliot Cruz, I really enjoy Elliot's take on what he listens to. A lot of those bands, folk bands, bluegrass bands, a lot of those artists I listen to. Some of the same ones I listen to, like Joni Mitchell and a few others, Jesse Winchester and Flying Burrito Brothers, Ozark Mountain Daredevils. Those are all bands I heard when I was in high school. I graduated in '76. So Record Crate is another one. He's over in the Raleigh area. He has his own store. He has a couple stores, one in Wake Forest also. Very nice guy. He's got a show on where he sells records a couple days a week. And I've bought things from him, and they always come in really good shape, and never had any issues whatsoever. I like to watch Dead Wax 66, AKG or AGK from Canada. I buy old records. He's from somewhere out in Texas, and he goes around and buys old 45s and then flips them. And he's really funny. Jack's Tracks, it's so nice to see a young person involved with records and enjoying them as much as he does. Naz the Nomad in Canada, he helped me get my my system up and running. I got a Marantz system, and I talked to Naz, and he told me which ones to get, and then I followed his lead, and then pretty much got the same setup he has, but he has a lot of other things. Oddbox Topper is another one. I sent him some VCLT a while back. I've been watching him for a long time. I wish he'd make more videos. And tomorrow night, I'm going to do some the pickups for Wednesday night. We're going to go over what I found, like I was saying. And we're going to look back at the 70s bands, early 70s. Let's say like from 1970 to 1976, when I graduated high school. My high school days, pre-Navy, before I went in the Navy. We're going to talk about some of these groups, Alice Cooper, David Bowie, Grand Funk Railroad, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, Deep Purple, T-Rex, and a lot of the Beatles solo stuff. I enjoyed some of the Beatles' later albums. I remember growing up in New Jersey, my first records I ever heard were The Doors, Creedence CCR, and also I heard the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper. Sgt. Pepper probably was the first album I ever heard. The beginning of prog, some say. Or did prog come from psych music? Did psych music morph into prog? I'm more and more believing that. Last night we talked about a few I never heard before. A couple groups. We talked about Group 87 and Hedvig Molenstead. These are bands that a lot of people have never heard of. And I'm going to just go ahead and throw a couple out there every night. Just a little tidbit to put out there. And if anybody's heard of Gentle Giant, this is the new Steven Wilson. This is their album Freehand. It's one of their later albums. They were around from 1970 to 1980, and they made a lot of great music. Their later albums at the end, they had hit and miss on songs and stuff, but their early stuff and their middle stuff, and this one here, and then after this one, I think was Interview, and then it went downhill from there. But so anyway, yeah, this is really good, and it really sounds superb. And this is another band I like. They're called Riverside. Has anybody ever heard of Riverside? They're a very good band. They're from Poland, and this album is called Wasteland. This is their last album. Their guitar player passed away a few years ago, and this is the first album they made after he passed away. And they didn't replace him on this album. It was just the three of them made this album, and then the bass player played the guitar parts. And so I heard now that for the next album, what they're working on, they're going to have a new guitarist. So we'll see about that and how that all unfolds. So that's about all I got for tonight. And like I say, tomorrow night we're going to be looking at those bands from the 70s, early 70s, the ones I grew up with. And I'm going to go over the things I find tomorrow from the Antique Mall in Concord. And one other thing, I didn't get into progressive rock until I heard The Lamb. Now that would have been right around 1977. I was at a really good friend of mine's house in New Jersey. And he played The Lamb for me. A Lamb Lies Down on Broadway by Genesis. And I was just blown away because I had been listening to, like I say, Alice Cooper, Deep Purple, Emerson, Lake and Palmer, and a lot of those 70s bands. That's David Bowie. That's basically what I was into. That's what I was listening to. And then he opened up a whole new genre for me. And I was off and running from there. And then, of course, all the prog bands, all the big prog bands. And then the 80s came, and a lot of the prog bands all switched to pop. And so then that was probably the end of prog for a while. And then later in the 80s, Marillion came out, and the neo-prog scene started, and then it was off and running again. So there was a lull there for a few years. But anyway, we'll talk about that tomorrow night. We're going to talk about 70s bands, and then how I got into prog, and then we'll go from there. So y'all have a great evening. Make it a good one. And we'll talk to you tomorrow night. And thank you all for following my channel and subscribing to me. And we'll talk to you later. Have a great evening. Bye.